You have to cut that bird's mouth so that it planes out with the rest of the rafters on the top. We try to take the wood out of the wall and put in insulation. That changes depending on how you apply the stress in relation to the grain direction.
Hello and welcome everybody. So right out of the gate here, if you're having trouble committing to something or you're getting stuck like me, not knowing what to commit to, by the end of this session, you guys are going to know what you're getting stuck on, why you're getting stuck on it, why you should get unstuck, how to get unstuck, and what to think about in terms of when you're going to start making progress. Okay. So I've been designing houses and trying to make business decisions for the past 4 years of my life or so. And it has taken that much time and a lot of mistakes to learn what a business needs to keep me alive. And I can proudly say that my drafting has actually supported me for the past 8 months or so, plus or minus a little bit. So guys, this stuff works. All right. I spent these last 4 years learning this stuff, and I'm going to share it with you now so you can use it today and save the lost money and time and then get the lessons without the scars. Okay. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them at the end. So let's get right into it. What you're getting stuck on. Number one. All right. So you're probably getting stuck because you have accumulated a bunch of life skills, and that has put you in the place where you're at. All right. We've all got different journeys, different professional lives and things. And some of us are 40 with a certain set of skills. Some of us are 20 with a certain set of skills. And very likely, the reason you're stuck on something is because you have not learned the next set of skills. I'll get about the why in just a second. But basically, if you've spent a considerable amount of time moving nowhere, working really hard, then you are working on the wrong stuff because it's not moving you forward. All right. And you could define moving forward however you like, but this is the general idea I'm talking about is advancing in the way that whatever it is that you're intending, whether that's making more money or having more beautiful women around you. I don't know. I don't care what it is. Right. It's however you want to define it. Okay. So what you're getting stuck on in some way, we're going to call it a boss. All right. You have met a boss in life. It's like a video game. Okay. So number two, why are you getting stuck on it? Well, the skills you currently have are not enough for you to grow into the next phase of your life. And so you're getting stuck because you need to learn new skills. All right. What's it going to take to learn new skills? Well, you got to be focused. And right now, you're probably not focused. You're distracted, probably because you are being delusional about what it is that you think you need to be doing. And I know for myself, I have dealt with a lot of delusion, trying to figure out what I need to be doing to commit and make things happen. And the main delusion you're dealing with is that you think doing all of the things you're doing now are the right things that are going to move you forward the fastest. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, is how that's delusional. Okay. So one of the problems that we have that's keeps us stuck is that we keep falling for the quote woman in the red dress. All right. And the woman in the red dress is just a analogy from the movie The Matrix. And the idea behind it is that there is a pretty attractive thing that comes your way, but it takes you away from your goal. You know, in the movie, it's actually like the alien Matrix people that want to kill you. And so that's bad. But in real life, no one probably wants to kill you, but there are plenty of things in life, that are going to want to take away from you and your energy and your goals. Pretty much everybody in your life is going to want some level of resource or access from you in some way. And so you have to be very aware that there's going to be a lot of things that come up. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there are like fun things you can do in life. Let's say like dirt biking or riding your skateboard or going hiking in the mountains or going on a boat trip or going canoeing down a river, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that those things are bad things to do. But you just have to be aware that by definition, the farther you get in life and the more resources you attain, the more capable and more opportunities you're going to have women all around you, to say, right? At the beginning, when you're a broke boy, you're not going to get on the carnival trip and go ride the big cruise liner. You can't afford it. So you're gonna I guess grind with whatever you've got. And honestly, if you can barely afford your own lifestyle, then you're going to be grinding. If you get to the point where you start making more money and you've got excess money, now all of a sudden all of these other opportunities are going to pop up and be attainable for you, and you didn't develop the skill to say no to them because you didn't need to by that point. So you're going to have to learn it. All right? And so be aware that as you succeed, those new opportunities are going to show up and they're going to be exciting, and doesn't mean don't do fun things, but it just means that be aware that women in the red dress like to distract from the focus that you're trying to get unstuck, right? That's the whole point. So you've met this boss in the video game you're in, and one of the problems frequently that a lot of people have is that we try to change our character in the video game. We try pausing it, opening up the menu, swapping out one guy for maybe a sword for a knife or some different thing, and we tried to like do something a little different, but just like come back against the boss. And if you don't beat the boss, you're not going to move up to the next level. So you got to do more than just change the character. Now, number 3, why should we get unstuck? Okay. Now, can anyone here imagine doing what they're doing right now for the rest of their lives? That would kind of suck. I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't want to do that. Most of you guys probably don't want to do that either. So your lack of ability to make decisions is going to be the thing that ends up killing you. If you don't do something different, you will end up doing the same thing for the rest of your life. So we have to take steps and figure out other ways to do things different. And I would argue that even if you change your character, but you can't beat the boss, there's going to be some level of resentment you hold over yourself when you're like 50 or 60, right? You get to the end of your career or whatever it is. Believe it or not, if you have not beaten that boss, then you're going to know. Maybe you're still like working a wage slave job and you're making $40 an hour maximum or something at some like relatively high level position. You kind of have like a savings and a retirement, but you're not like making it. And the reason this is going to be obvious is because you're going to see lots of other people in your life, maybe not lots, but there will probably be people that you know that have made it because they decided to take the focus and the effort and beat their own boss, and you did not. So that's why you should do it, because you're going to be sick of yourself if you don't. And you know what? Not everybody is going to like approach it with the same level of ambition and the same oomph, because we're all different people and we all have different standards, and that's fine. But just be aware that at your own pace, with your own comfort level, you should just continue to like keep learning. It doesn't mean you have to be Grant Cardone and owning like all the jets in the world. That he doesn't own all the jets in the world, obviously. A wise man once told me he had a very nice jet, or at least I'm hoping that's who he's talking about. But that's not important. What's important is that that's why you should get unstuck. All right. So guys, how do we get unstuck? Number 4, we come unstuck by becoming laser focused on something. All right. Now, the things that are going to determine where you're at on the continuum of laser focus are going to be the way you approach hobbies, friends, other potential businesses, networking events, vacations, like all this other stuff that you could do in your life. There's going to be a scale. There's an infinite continuum. It's not like you're either focused or you're not focused. It's that there are things you will choose to give up, and that will be able to set a capacity of your focus. Okay. And here's a quote for you. from Steve Jobs. People think focus is saying yes to the thing you focus on, but that's not what it means at all. It means you say no to 100 other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. All right, by Mr. Steve Jobs. And he's figured a lot of stuff out to get where he's at. So his words are probably worth considering. And that's important to know because a lot of times when we think about focus, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to focus on this thing. And then like your phone pops open and it's a notification from your friend who has this exciting, cool thing or this funny meme he wanted to share with you or something, right? And in order for you to say yes to the thing you're working on, you have to say no to the funny meme in that moment. So, and the other thing, guys, is that it's not good enough just to say no to the easy stuff, right? Okay, we could take our phones, put them on Do Not Disturb, set them over somewhere where you can't see them on a nice fuzzy pillow. So if it buzzes or whatever, you're not going to notice. That's good. Like that's a good progress thing. But the no's to the more deep things that you want, those are going to be the juiciest no's. And those are the ones that are going to boost you in terms of your potential. And those are the things that are going to propel you the fastest towards getting the goal you actually want and getting unstuck from where you're at. Those are the biggest ones. If you really love mountain biking, for example, I've got some mountain bike stuff behind me here. If I went mountain biking every single day because I loved it and it was really important to me, that's a great opportunity for me to, it's not like I'm going to give up mountain biking forever, right? But I might look at mountain biking and say, you know what? This needs to be a reward for my focus and my hard work. And I am going to buy back all those hours that I was preparing, cleaning, getting dirt off my bike, whatever maintenance, you name it. I'm going to buy back all that time and I'm going to pour it into the thing that I want to focus on because this is the thing that's going to move me forward in my future. Bicycling, it's not going to do much for me. It's like fun, right? It's important in some way, but it's not going to get me unstuck. So I am willing to bet that some, if not most of you guys, have some no's already waiting for you on your desk, whether your desk is at home or not. You have no's that are really, really juicy. And you probably already know what they are and that you've probably already thought about, man, I could do this thing. And yeah, it would accelerate me and like get me a whole bunch of money a lot faster. But it's like I really like it. And so you end up just not doing it. So the biggest ones are very important. Now, lots of no's, remember, is really just saying yes to the thing you committed to at the beginning and being persistent at it. And so if you want to be somebody who becomes a person of their word, even to yourself, if you have a goal and you have something you want to achieve and you want to make a difference, then you're going to have to say no to a lot of stuff in the future in order to continue saying yes to the thing you already have, the thing that you know probably already works. Saying no to something puts money in the bank. Saying yes to something makes the withdrawal from the bank. And that's very real, especially in terms of like the actual cash you have to work with. And guys, it normally sucks to say no in the moment. And it feels good to say yes in the moment. Your family member sends you an invite to not a wedding, because that's a pretty important event for some people, but let's say some distant uncle's child's friend's birthday party. And because you struggle to say no to things, you say yes. And so when you go, because you don't have self-control, you'll resent yourself. You'll resent them for asking you to go, even though it's not that important. And your presence is not required for many reasons at all. If you had said no to the event, it would have been difficult and not awkward, but it would have been like it's more difficult to say no in the moment to the Evite or whatever they've sent you. But later on, when the thing happens, and you're like, oh, I have this time. I have bought myself this time by making the difficult decision of saying no, and now I can leverage that time to accomplish many more things that are going to get me, going to convert my potential to actuality. All right. So, okay. So, yeah, it sucks to say no in the moment, but it will feel better later. So, the other thing is that we need to take ownership of the issue of the thing that is stopping us. Okay. Sometimes what that's going to mean is if you are consciously aware of the thing that's stopping you, then instead of thinking to yourself, this thing doesn't work for me, think to yourself, I don't know how to make this thing work for me. And that's going to take you a step in the right direction because you are going to be able to, when you've reframed it from that perspective, that's a thing you can solve. You cannot solve, well, marketing just doesn't work for me because I'm not a good salesman. Or business just doesn't work for me because I don't understand a lot about business. It becomes something that you can control when you decide to say, I don't know how to make this thing work because I'm not familiar with it. Great. That gives you a place you can start learning. So, number 5, all right? We know how to get unstuck. Let's talk about making a little bit of progress. So, what you should expect when you're going to make some progress, all right? So, you're entering into a world where you're actually accepting accountability for your position in life. You're not floating through anymore. You have decided that your time means something and you are going to act as such. And I would argue that most people who develop this mindset, they end up somehow learning how to trade their time at a higher leverage, whether that means for equity or future value instead of just money, right? So being a wage slave, being an employee by itself is you're trading your time, you're getting money, and that's like the basic transaction. Now, the better you get with something, the more you'll be able to trade your time for money. But that only goes so far, especially when you're able to learn a very powerful set of skills that can solve a lot of complex problems. So, in most companies, most likely people learn so much and they get so good, the company's not designed to handle and not contain, but retain the value that those people are now capable of producing. And or like owners are just too greedy with whatever they've produced and they don't understand the importance of retaining someone, and so they limit their pay and they limit the amount they can involve or buy into the company, and therefore get like long-term asset benefit from the company and invest in something, and they'll go somewhere else. Okay. So entrepreneurship is generally where most people end up because that's where like you have the most control over what you're doing. And whether that means that you've worked in a company so long and the owner is like so tight with you and you know so much that you're going to get in tight with the owner there and do entrepreneurship that way, or if you're going to split off and do entrepreneurship your own way. Either way, most people, when they continue down this path and realize, oh, I am the source of my own potential, I'm my own limiter, the first question you start asking yourself is, well, I can only work 40 hours a week. I have these extra 80 hours I could be working in the week. Like, what am I going to do with all that time? What could I produce? And if you can't work the extra hours at your job, then you're going to make work for yourself. That's just called being an entrepreneur, right? That's just the way it goes. Okay. Now, entrepreneurship, generally defined here, guys, is going to be about moving forward. It's going to be about taking the next best step and continuing to grow into the next thing, even if it's not the perfect thing. And that has been, when I was at the beginning of learning business and starting businesses, I kept hearing business people say, you're probably going to fail your first 10. Your first 10 businesses aren't going to make it. And of course, me thinking the way that I think, I was like, I'm different. That's not going to happen. This one's going to be the one. And we're going to talk about my case at the end of this. But it's funny to think about that concept. And it's true. But when you reset and you hit the reset button, or you have to pivot and change into something different, you did not you didn't lose. You just had to learn a way to play the game, and you had to learn what you weren't good at. You had to learn that you didn't, like, if you're going to go play soccer with a bunch of friends and you've never done it before, you have to learn that you got to run around a lot or whatever it may be. And maybe you're out of shape. Maybe you're fat. So that's going to be hard. And so you learn, oh, I need to get in shape, understand this thing. Then when I get back into it, I will be much more able to compete with all these other people running around playing soccer. All right. There's two ways to make more money. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're going to start working this extra hard to make this extra money for yourself, you can either do more stuff, or you can get more for what you already do. All right. Let's talk a little bit about leverage. Leverage is a concept that became very important to me somewhat recently. And it's something that I've thought about and I've talked about with lots of people for a while. But the actual application of it, I did not fully understand until very recently. The basic idea of leverage is we want to generate the most output for our input. Okay. So if there's a pivot right here and we have a lever that's equal, and I push down on this side of the lever with my arm, I'm going to be able to push up on this side of the lever with an equal amount. The idea is, for what I put in, I get something out. If I have a wage slave job and I work solving problems that are worth $20 an hour, I'm going to get $20 an hour. If you change the scenario and you learn skills and you extend your side of the lever, then what you're going to do is what you put in terms of force, let's not like worry about math and force and distance and stuff like that. The force you put in over on this side, if it's the same, you spend the same hours, you're able to move more. You're able to push harder on this side of the lever. Okay. And basically what we want to be doing in life, the focus, the whole part of all this is when we put our effort in, we want to do it for the longest possible stick on this side to generate the most output. And then once we figured out what that might be and we're getting closer to isolating that, we want to do it 1,000 times. Because when we initially start doing something, we suck, which is low leverage activity. The more we do it, the better we get. And so we're going to both increase volume and leverage. We're going to do it more times and we're going to get better each time we do it. And if you continue doing that for a long period of time and don't get distracted by women in red dresses, you'll eventually have a very high leverage machine. And that's important because you ought to think about your life in terms of the time that you have. There's a wise man, he's my brother, and he's got a number in his head. I don't remember what it is, but there's some fixed number of weeks that we all have to live. And we ought to think about acting in a high leverage way to get the most out of our life. And it's very literally designed to push things as hard as we can with the least possible effort. I did not understand that concept when I started my first few businesses. And I'll kind of transition into that right now. So the last piece of this is going to be education businesses versus service businesses. So if you're sitting there, and I don't know who's watching, but if there are people watching that are in construction, they're framers, or they install siding, or they install flooring, or they are a mason, or whatever. Or maybe you're I'm not looking at who's in the chat right now, but if you're a dental hygienist, or if you're a florist, or if you're a esthetician, whatever it might be, right? If you provide a service to someone That's one type of business. And the other type of business that you could generally be engaging in is education style businesses in like a plain sense. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is very important to the story and the path that I'm taking myself on, and hopefully maybe taking some of you on with me if you want to learn it. I spend a lot of time trying to gather data and learn and learn and learn so that I can condense all the mistakes I'm making up front and learn from other people's mistakes before I have to make them. So that, by the way, in and of itself is a high leverage move. Don't make the mistakes yourself. Learn from what somebody else did. And like, if you've got free time, learn from somebody, whether it's an audiobook or YouTube or whatever. Spend that time not consuming, stuff that's not improving you. Spend the time learning stuff that's going to give you the edge, because you only have so much time. So an education business is going to grow a little bit differently than a service business. And I just recently learned this. I am not an expert in business. I know enough to get myself in trouble and enough to keep myself alive. So take this with a grain of salt. But when you're going to, I bring this up because you're either in service or you're in education. Most people are probably in service. And if you're considering education, understand it's a different business model. You are selling a different thing. When you do this, you will be able to grow a business a lot faster, but it will eventually taper off and you're going to hit a limit. The reason you're going to hit a limit has to do with growth patterns. I'll talk about that in a second. Service businesses. If you perform a service for someone, it takes a long time to get momentum in a service business. But when you stay in the course and you're able to beat the little bosses along the way, this thing is the highest value asset. This is the thing that can scale off the charts. And if you're the kind of person who wants to be 40 and sell a business for $500 million, this is the service, this is the business you probably want to create. All right. And I bring this up because I had to go through this thought process to get to where I'm at now, which is that I am going to build this. I am going to build a service business. I am not going to build an education business. All right. And you say, Sam, you're here educating us right now. You're full of shit. Wrong. I'm educating you because I'm selfish. And I know that if you like me and you like my views, you'll tell other people about me or something like that, right? I'm not here to monetize the content that I'm going to create for educational purposes. It's going to serve a different purpose. It will be marketing material. It will be stuff that directs people and proves to people that I know what I'm doing and that I can do this very well. That's the purpose. Now, if I happen to educate people and they learn, great. Everybody wins. That's kind of the idea. So this has this curve because of the general concept of acquiring a client and churn. Okay. So for those that don't know, acquiring a client simply means they were not your client or they were not your customer. They became a lead and you sold them on a product, you sold them on a course, something you were going to teach them. They need to learn something, they're going to learn it. And then once they've learned it, guess what? They don't really need you anymore. And that's just generally how this works. There's a reason 4-year college is not infinitely long college. Education is designed to inject the information, you learn it, you move on. It's not designed for longevity versus a service business. If I start gathering, let's say, so I'm a draftsman. Okay, so if I collect one home builder here at the beginning, and then over here I've got 4 home builders, and over here I work for 8 home builders, presuming I don't churn them, which would mean I do a bad job and they don't want to use me anymore, aka they leave, they are no longer my customer. If I only add customers on average, I am going to keep going up, and I'm going to retain the customers because the thing that I'm doing for them is not teaching them how to do what I do. Now, I can still teach some of the things that I know how to do because I don't necessarily want to serve everybody. If there's cool people that want to learn about design and construction, or some of the stuff that I happen to know, and they learn, great, then I'm able to help more people because I've scaled and I have a lot more resources to do so. If I can make my yearly income 300K, then I probably have a reasonable amount of time on my hands that I can dedicate to filtering that information down so that I can do more of this side, which is not to make money, it's for a different purpose. But that's the idea. And so if you're considering which one of these two to go into, frequently what happens, unfortunately, folks, is people start out here because most people learn how to do something, and that's a skill that they have that solves a certain problems at the service. And they're like, oh, I'm really good at what I'm doing. I'm starting to gain momentum. People are starting to tell me, oh, you ought to teach people what you're doing. Oh, can we just like we don't want you to do it for us. Can you just teach us how to do it? And they start to pry you out of the service industry. And that's going to be very tempting because it's going to mean lots of money very fast at the beginning. But like I said before, the problem with that is now you were over here selling your brick installations, and then a bunch of brick installers saw you getting really good at it and that you had a bunch of skill and they wanted to learn from you. And so you stopped installing bricks and you started teaching people how to install bricks. But now all this batch of people that wanted to know how to install bricks, no, and they can leave. And now you're not installing bricks anymore. So all the people that were over here that you were serving found somebody else and they're not interested in you anymore. Maybe. And that can be problematic because now, in order to maintain this level of income, guess what? You are now no longer selling your skill at doing the brickwork. You're selling people on your ability to teach them the skill. Your product that you have to market and sell is now entirely different. And this is the problem that I just ran into. I got decent at what I was doing. I'm somewhere down here. Okay. I'm getting this thing off the ground. I'm alive. It's keeping me there. I'm by no means rich, but it's something that's working for me. I came back up here to Washington to work on this ADU, and in the process was reminded how much fun it is to work with my hands, work with other people, and build stuff. It's fun. I like to do it. But if I were to try to make that a business, I need to know how to sell my ability to teach and be confident that what I'm teaching is already good and I've already succeeded doing it. And let's be real, people. I've not built 100 homes. I don't know how to do it with that level of consistency. I'm not an expert in that field. What I had figured out was that I am decently an expert in drawing houses. Good enough that I can solve a good enough problem and start taking this somewhere. Okay? And I want to be up here. Part of the issue that I was dealing with and trying to decide what I was going to do. Actually, you know what? Let me take a step back before I go into that. So all right, little story time, and then we're going to go right into comments and questions if you have any. When I started this process, graduated college with an engineering degree, couldn't get a job, got an engineering training certification, became a structural engineer at a San Antonio engineering firm, learned how to analyze people's foundations that were moving, learned how to design civil infrastructure, roads, streets, sewers, waterways, drainage, that stuff. and then eventually was able to get a department started inside the company doing framing design, which is really what I was passionate about, because I had been in the timeline of then to now. Graduating college happened about here. I started getting interested in construction and design over here. This is where I started. And so I was playing around with it here. I bought software and I started actually investing and spending the money on the software over here. And I said, I'm going to learn this skill. Like, this is something I want to know how to do. And I had no idea what I was going to do with it. But I started learning that skill right there. College happened. I got the job at the engineering firm. That went for, this is not to scale, that went for about 2 years. Started the company. I didn't start the company. I started the department, drawing framing plans. I did hundreds of huge custom homes, framing plans. I can understand framing in my head. That's great. But one of the mistakes I made at that firm was I did not understand the shiny red dress lady thing. Okay. And so what had started to happen was I started to see a space in the market for a good draftsman. It was that simple. As an engineer, I was seeing lots of architectural plans come in the door. And so I was like, wow, like 5% to 10% of all these plans are actually readable, clean, don't have mistakes in them, and like they're just a good plan. There's not problems with this plan. And so I'm like, okay, well, how about somebody who knows what they're doing with a house steps in and draws plans? And so I started doing that. And what I found was that pays a lot more money because it's solving a particular problem that was in the industry, at least per time at the moment. And so I got a shiny new dollar thing and I was like, oh, lady in the red dress. And I had no discipline at the time. And so I started giving less attention to the job that I was paying my bills and started giving more attention to the thing that was shiny and new and cool that was giving me opportunities. That was not consistent. So I got fired because I was being a bad engineer for the firm that I was at, which was totally legitimate. It was fair. And that taught me very quickly that I needed to learn how to do business. So the first thing I did after the firm was I started SHS, Stevenson Home Solutions. Started doing some siding for a neighbor. Again, the actual amount of money I was making out of this was almost nothing. Realized I can't do this by myself. Construction, and this is not just design. This was design and construction. I cannot do this by myself. And so I got a partner. I convinced another smart young man who's probably in the chats today, also an ambitious man. And I said, hey, I've got an idea. Let's start a company together. So we started Stevenson Yeager Construction. So this died. Started doing Stevenson Yeager Construction. This was a design build firm. Okay. So I would do all the design. I would take architectural design projects and I would also build things. I built a number of patio additions and some various small projects, siding replacements, stuff like that. And a lot of the partnership was ended up being me doing like a decent amount of labor by myself. And so like that was fine. I had no options. I was like, I'm going to install this 4x8 sheet of hardy on the second story wall because ain't nobody else going to do it. So I'm going to figure it out. And so I did, but I also learned by doing that it's like just I was not good at budgeting. I was not good at construction estimating. And so interestingly enough, the designs kept that business afloat while the construction was sinking it, to the point where I didn't have enough design going and I had a construction job with a particularly crazy client and had to just cancel the job and give the money back so I didn't get in legal trouble. And then SIC had to die. I had to kill it because I didn't know enough about how to run a business and acquire customers. That was my main problem here. I didn't know acquisition. I was relying on a third-party service that was way too expensive, and that was problematic. So that happened, and I had another fortunate man in my life, my brother, who offered me the job or the opportunity to ask for the job of climbing towers with him. And I said, that sounds like money, and I need that. So started climbing towers. Big old T for towers. And this gave me the time to fix my money a little bit, reflect a little bit on what I did wrong with these businesses. Figured out I didn't know anything about acquisition. I figured out I wasn't good at construction in terms of like the business side, but the drafting was something I could do. And so I also figured out that like I enjoyed the process of getting other people involved in my projects while I was doing this for fun and for like teaching and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, great. Let's form BFB. And that, my friends, is where Bungalows for Bachelors was formed. I created this idea and started building a platform and a brand around taking all the stuff that I knew in my head from engineering and all this design and everything and started teaching it. And I knew way more about framing engineering and design and homes stuff than I knew technical construction information, but I knew enough that I could put some stuff together. And so that's where I've got some of the courses that I've created. And from that point, I've tried building a community, and it's taken some time. Of course, I didn't know anything about building a community. So that took another year or so to figure out how to do that. All the time I'm climbing towers, and I am not able to take this thing to being the thing that's making me dollars. This thing's not going to support me. And so I thought to myself, all right, in order for me to get the highest leverage, I need to get better at design. So I took the, wow, brain's just leaving me here. So I left towers and I went and got a job. This is a hammer. That's a decent hammer. I went and got a job as a framer, doing siding and framing up here in Washington. And it did not pay very much money, but I was willing to sacrifice that temporary pay to learn skills that were going to make me a better designer and how I can have better claims to sell my design services. And then from that point, I started getting re-networked in with builders, designers, and it grew from there into what I had built, which was Stevenson Integrated Designs. Okay, that was the company that had been growing in Texas, mostly, while doing all this. And so I ended up with now two things neck to neck, right? I've got this thing that I've been learning about for 5-ish years, 4 to 5 years. And I've got this thing over here that I love to teach people about. And I have spent a lot of time analyzing why would I do either one of these two things. When I came back up to Washington, what I was confronted with was, this is a service industry. If I scale this, I'm going to have to learn how to hire people. That's difficult. That's my boss. That's where I got mentally stuck. And so when I came up here and started building stuff again, I was like, wait, maybe this is the thing I need to be doing, because this is exciting and new and fun and cool. And so I said, okay, let me put a bunch of energy into this thing. So I piled a bunch of energy into this thing, and this just kind of sat there waiting. I didn't quit. I didn't tell any builders I wasn't drawing. Again, this is paying my bills. This is not. And I said, okay, this is the thing. I need to do the thing. And generally the rule is, if you're going to try to do something, if you just commit, right, and you work hard enough, you can make it happen. Like, there's all kinds of stuff, like the school games and school service and stuff. I could learn a whole bunch of skills and figure out how to make this work. The reason I don't is because I don't want this graph. I want this graph. And the other thing that really was a kick in the pants that I really had to like stab myself in the heart, if you want to call it that, to like get over this part, was that this was really important to me at a very transformative time in my life when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do and what was important to me. This was my one thing, if you want to call it that. The concepts around why this is important to me are going to be transferred to this, because this is going to be a more efficient vehicle to accomplish the same goal. A lot of times, and I'm going to now speak to you guys, okay? So this gets stuck. People get stuck on this concept sometimes. You may want to shear sheep because you love sheep and shearing sheep. and you want to teach people how to shear sheep, and you're just fanatical about it, right? So either you create a great sheep shearing company. I picked a terrible set of words for that. Or you do something different and you decide you're going to try to teach people how to shear sheep. You're good at both, whatever, fine. But the reasoning behind I want to help people learn how to shear sheep because I can help people. I can make the world a better place. Frequently what happens is if you go around and start telling people, yeah, like I like to help people and all that stuff, they're going to tell you, oh, that's great. Like that's a good thing. And they're going to emotionally reaffirm for you that that's the thing you should be doing because that's good. And so you're going to end up being convinced somehow that by doing the thing that just makes you a ridiculous killer amount of leverage money, if you actually worked on it, but it's boring and I have to beat a boss and I have to commit and I have to say no. I have to say no to the other thing. And that has been the hardest part. And so this video, this show, whatever you want to call it. Oh, freak. How long has that been dead? Let's find out. Fix that. So this show has been about that decision-making process. And I wanted to give you guys the tools that I use to make it. Because I'm willing to bet that there is stuff you're doing that you are saying yes to, and you could be saying no to it and saying yes to the thing you know already works. That could be the highest leverage thing that you've got. And you're just like farting around. So that said, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Now you know. Let's go through this fun little chat here. Look at this, 46 comments. Awesome. Let's shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for coming on here and learning. I hope this has been a good time. All right, let's do this. Green Observer. Hello, everyone. Folks, Green Observer, he's the guy. This man, Green Observer, he was up here building stuff with me now. He's on this journey as well. I guarantee you. And I guarantee I guarantee you, because I have confidence in him, that he's going to make the hard decisions and he's going to blow up. More to come on that later. We got Will Stevenson in the chat. This is the guy that helped me survive for a few years, climbing towers and doing ridiculous stuff. If you guys want to learn about an amazing job that will free you from being bored at work ever again and get paid well, this is the guy to contact. He is the guy to contact, and he's a mod, so he should put his link in the chat. We got Centurion 54X. What's up, guys? Centurion, good to see you, man. Glad to have you here for learning. It's been nice having you along the journey with Bungalows for Bachelors. I want to make it very clear also. I'm not shutting down this YouTube channel. I'm not shutting down my community of people that have supported me along this way. I am going to switch to doing the highest leverage possible thing that I can do. I'm going to share as much information about everything I learn as I possibly can. And I'm going to continue to just maximize effort. And if you guys want to come along for that journey, then I'd be happy to have you along. So it's good to have you thus far. Looks like Will is watching lives from Mom's house with Mom. Oh, that's exciting. Hi, Mom. This is me. This is me being successful. Well, now I don't have to explain this to my mom, guys. Oh my gosh. How hilarious. We got Jenna Nelson. Hello, Jenna. Jenna is a hardworking business owner herself, for sure. And you know what, Centurion, I don't know if you run your own business or what, but I know you're a hard worker, man. You're driving tractors and running a 300-acre farm, I think is the right number. So we got lots of hard workers in here. We got Jenna Nelson, maintaining everybody's skin, keeping us beautiful. I have this nice tan color right now because I decided to be unsafe with my UV exposure. And I spent a lot of time out in some heavy sun here that we had just recently. Okay. We got Wyatt in the chat. Yosep just finished a project today and jacked. That's good to hear. Get jacked, my friend. That's what we want, is muscles. I hope jacked is what you're referring to. Either way, glad you're excited. Glad you finished a project. Mr. Wyatt here. Check out his channel. He has recently just started. I mean, I don't know how recent it was. I've started seeing videos pop up from the algorithm, feeding me some of his awesome content. And he is a excellent example of a expert craftsman construction who knows what he's doing and is teaching some very valuable information. You should check out his channel. Excuse me. All righty. We got Tam in the chat. Hello, Tam. There goes the camera again. Let's fix that. I have an excellent someone from a business who's going to help me solve some technological problems. Hopefully I can get that resolved and refer him to all of you peoples. So good to see you, Tam. Good to have you. Here we go. I love Sam's streams. Thank you. Thank you, Tam. Hopefully I can continue raising the value bar. There it goes again. Let's do it again. All righty. Let me keep going through here. Comment from Wilson. Learning better than losing. Absolutely. Oh, look who's in the chat. Dollars and cents with Christine. That's right, folks. If you are in the business of potentially starting a new one, or you want to make sure that your head's on straight with the IRS, this lady is the one to call. She happens to be my mother, and she also happens to be one of the best financial planners / IRS consulting peoples that helps people actually solve problems and avoid problems before they even happen. She's got a great book. Ought to check it out. Hopefully Will can put the book in the link description. Oh, there it is. 4,000 weeks. You got 4,000 weeks, guys. Roughly spieling. Just roughly. Let's keep going. Jen over here, service business. That's right. That's right. We got Elena. Hello, Elena. Good to see you. Let's see. Makes total sense. I appreciate that. I don't know what I was talking about at that point, unfortunately. Let's see. Let's see. This is great. I love to see you guys chatting and having a good time. Let me go through here. Oh, we got Liberty Twitcher. Hello again, Liberty Twitcher on Twitch. Good to see you again. He says, that's so unusual nowadays. You sacrificed and struggled to learn a skill that would pay off exponentially later. Probably the framing thing. I had to assume. Yes, it is not common for sure. I would say it's a gut check to, especially if you're already doing something. And like I've been learning a lot from Alex Hormozy lately. I have to credit a lot of information to him. And one of the things that he chose to do is he was a highfalutin consultant dude making good money, and he decided to leave it all behind and go mop floors in a gym for minimum wage because he wanted to learn the trade and he wanted to learn a new set of skills. So yeah, not a lot of people do it, and it takes the right resources and setup to do it. So if you are in the place, like if you're in the beginnings of your professional career and you're maybe not even like out of the house yet or something, if your parents are gracious enough to allow you to invest in learning skills that are going to be high leverage for you later, and you can suck up your pride enough to, live with them and be a good roommate, resident, child, whatever you want to call it, that can be a very high leverage move. I know a few people that are doing that. Let's see. Okay, so what do we got here? Jen and Elsa just noticed the meow book. That's right, folks. So this is an example of a set that is not optimized for what I'm trying to teach here. We got a meow book. I do have a whiteboard, but we got some bicycle stuff up here. Like this is not ideal for selling. You want to maximize the power and potential of your environment when you're doing that. But yeah, that's a great book. That was, I believe, Mr. Will Stevenson got that book. Centurion, I'm running my family's farm and doing custom work under my own business. I'm in the same boat. Got to figure out the things that are the best use of time for the most reward. Absolutely, sir. I would be very interested in having a conversation with you, maybe a live call or something other people could learn as well. What are the challenges that you're facing specifically? And like, what are some thought experiments we could run through there? I'd be very interested in doing that. I don't know how comfortable you are with something like that, but I bet people could learn a lot. Your camera gets overheated. Gotcha. Yeah, this is a phone. I got the phone rigged up, and I'm using a third-party app to communicate the data, and then I couldn't say what it is. Let's see. There's the book on tax savings. There you go. How to avoid trouble with the IRS. That is the book. I have read it at least once, and I need to read it more because I don't want the IRS getting down my back, and you all don't want it either. So I appreciate you guys coming on. That's all I've got. That's the update of things. So what you may have seen online is that I am consolidating my Instagram. I took my personal brand, I took my BFB brand, and I am blended them together. There's now one account. And I did the one, I just picked the one that had the most followers and content on it and just moved everything over to the other one. So I have one brand. I am focused. I am consolidated. I am going to spend at least the next year doing everything I possibly can with this one thing. And I would like to be reporting to you guys along the way and figuring out, like, as I learn things, I'm happy to share it, because this is going to be a learning game, and I'm still here to help people. So that's what I'm dealing with, and that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, you may see like names changing around and stuff like that. I'm going to kind of consolidate and do some stuff, but yeah, that's what's going on. All you got to know is that I'm still here. I'm still going to keep producing. And I got worried you went Grant Cardone on me. What did Grant Cardone do? Oh, like produce. I wonder if you mean because to move all this stuff over, and I just data dumped. I made like 500 reels a day or whatever. Like, I didn't do that many, but I just dumped like 15, 20 reels at once. That's like why it's worried over here that I'm going to do the Grant Cardone. You're not posting 10 pieces of content a day. You're not doing enough. That's hilarious, bro. Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, it's good to have you on. It's good to hear from you guys. I'll be seeing you around, and I hope to have lots of lessons and good stuff to offer you guys in the future. And I wish you all the best of luck in solving whatever things you are stuck on, because we're all stuck on something. So there we go. See you guys out. Let's take it out with some beautiful music by the one and only Green Observer here in the chat, folks. Thank you for coming on.